this is a nice finger picking song in C, like Cool About It by Boy Genius, which is like The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel, and many other songs in the key of C. So if you have never done before or just learning this kind of finger picking style, I have a basic finger picking tutorial video, which I will put a link down there. But if you are familiar with the style, it should be pretty right in there. Okay, so and I'll have a full tab that will be available at my Patreon, and there'll be a link to that as well. All right, so the intro is just 4 bars of the C chord, and so it's this style. Okay, so for one thing, I like to do this. Notice how my 3rd finger is going between the 3rd fret on the A and the 3rd fret on the E. I like doing that. You can play C like this with your 3rd finger already, your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the low E and your pinky on the 3rd fret of the A, and then you can do the same picking pattern and not have to move any fingers. So I'll leave that up to you. So the finger picking pattern, which, as I said, it's a really common finger picking pattern. It's this old friend. All right, so your thumb is going to be playing the low strings. Often it's going to go A, D, E, D. Sometimes it's going to go E, D, E, D. Sometimes it's going to go D, G, A, G, right? So it's always playing, the thumb is always starting on whatever the low string of that chord is, right? So like in a C chord, A is the low string, right? So the thumb is going to go A, D, E, D, A, D, E, D. And this is a good thing if you're getting started with this kind of thing. It's good to sort of practice having your thumb being really rhythmic, because your thumb is playing all the beats like that, right? So like on a C chord, it does this. On an A minor chord, it does this, right? Now, on a G chord, it's going to play E, D, E, D. And on a D minor, it's going to go D, G, A, G. That's just changing because of what the low string of the chord is. Anyway, so when you play the C, thumb, your middle finger in general in this picking pattern is playing the B string. Your index finger in general in this pattern is playing the G string. Play your thumb on the A, then play your thumb on the D with your middle on the B. Then your thumb plays the E by itself, the low E, and that's where either this 3rd finger needs to move to the low E string, or if you did this, then you don't have to do that. A string with the thumb, D string with the thumb, B string with the middle finger, low E string with the thumb, index finger with the G, G with the index finger, thumb on the D, middle finger on the B. So I'll give numbers this time. 5, 2 and 4, 6, 3, 4, 2. 5, 2 and 4, 6, 3, 4, 2. A with the thumb, D with the thumb and B with the middle, E with the thumb, G with the index, D with the thumb, B with the middle. And like I said, you can use that exact same pattern when you're on like an A minor. It's going to change like when you're on a chord like this G or this F. We use a modified F in this song, but it's the same thing. On the F, the pattern just changes to the middle and index do the same thing, but the thumb now, instead of going A, D, E, D, is going to go E, D, E, D. Okay, I'll go over the individual picking patterns as we get through the chords. So the beginning of the song is just 4 bars. Sorry, I just want this button to stop hitting my guitar. Okay, so the beginning of the song is just 4 bars of the C. 3, 4. Now, we're in the verse. Okay, so the verse starts. I feel 1 bar of C, and then you're switching to G. You can just play G like this. You don't need these other fingers. You can just have the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the low E. On a lot of these songs, by the way, you can switch to the new chord on the very last 8th note of the measure. So you end up hearing the new chord a little early, if that makes any sense. So in other words, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. see that? So my first finger picked up to get into the G chord. That's like a kind of subtle detail. Feel free to ask me what I mean by that if it's like blowing your mind. Okay, so you go this, now you're on this G. He immediately now on the G hammers on the first finger to the first fret of the B. So when you switch to the G chord, you have your third finger on the low E, pluck that with your thumb, and then right away, you're doing the thumb on the D and the middle finger on the B, just like in the other pattern, but when you do it, you hammer on. You play the open B at first, then you hammer on the first fret of the B, and then he immediately lets it go. Like, oh yeah, wait, actually, so that in that measure, it doesn't, later it's gonna be let go. In this measure, it doesn't matter, you can just go, something like that. So now it's into this weird chord, the next chord. I noticed when he plays it live, he just plays a regular F here. So he goes, you know, live, he's like, but on the record, there's a more interesting chord for F, which is this. You could use your third finger or your pinky for that. Your first finger is going to be on the first fret of the low E, and then either your third finger or your pinky is going to be on the third fret of the B. Okay? Same picking pattern. 6 by itself, 4 and 2, 6 by itself, 3 with the middle. Yeah, maybe not that last, not that last 2. So it becomes 6, 4 and 2, 6, 3, 4. E, B and D, E, G, D. Okay, and this is your chord first finger on the first fret of the low E, and then either third finger or pinky on the third fret of the B. Okay? There's gonna be some other versions of this chord. This is like the F chord in this song. And then that takes you right back to the C fret measure. So you have C, G with that little sus first finger on the B, G, now this weird F, back to the C. There's some little, you know, hammer-on kind of things that just happen naturally from switching between the chords, you know what I mean? This is what I tripped on my words before. This is where you go. So it's the same, begins the same way. Thumb plays the low E. D and B string together, hammer on the first fret of the B. And then lift up the first finger and play this full G. So this finger picking pattern we've talked about, you can kind of double it. So in other words, if the pattern is normally like, right, you can also go. And what I'm doing, in other words, is I'm just keeping the index and middle going instead of giving the thumb its own space. This is really, so in other words, I could go, or I could go. So it just becomes that there's a middle and then an index between every thumb. So it's thumb on the 6, thumb on the 4 with the middle on the 2, and then thumb on the 6, index on the G, on the 3, thumb on the 4 on the D. But now I just keep going, middle on the 2, thumb on the 6, index on the 3, thumb on the 4. Okay, as I said, there's a tab, if that helps. I could spend all day sort of like explaining that, but hopefully that sort of makes sense. That's that part. Then you're gonna go back to this chord, the F, and then back to the C. So that's for the first time, and now it's gonna repeat, right? So we went C, G with the weird thing. First time with this weird F, C, G, go up and then back down, now more picking, and now F for a bar, and now C bar for a bar. Now we repeat. F, C, this time on the G, so that time he does that. It's the same picking pattern here, but so after you do this hammer onto the first fret on the B, pinky's gonna come in and play the third fret on the B. And then back down to the first finger on the B. Just a slight difference, totally skippable. Back to the F, back to the C for 2 bars now. That's the verse. Okay, that brings us into the, I'm calling these sections, you could call them different things, but let's call that the verse. Now that brings us to the chorus. Okay, so the chorus starts with E minor. So E minor chord, because E is the low string, is going to be the type of picking with the 6. So it's 6, 4 and 2, 6, 3, 4, 2. E, D and B, E, G, D, B. Thumb, thumb in middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle. That's for 2 bars. To an E7, first finger on the first fret of the G, second finger on the second fret of the A. Same exact picking pattern. Now A minor. A minor you can pick the way you picked C. Now C over G, same picking pattern. Thumb, 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 thumb in middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle. Right? C over G, third finger on the third fret of the low E. Now it goes to this F, and so live he literally just plays like an F bar chord F and plays this for 4 bars. So you can definitely do that because that's what he does. On the record it does this. So this is first finger on the first fret of the low E, which is an F. On the first time that it does thumb and middle, hammer on the second finger to the first fret of the B. And then you do your regular pattern. Now it does this a couple times, so it's like 2, 3, and now move to you could use your third finger or your pinky on the third fret of the B, back to the second finger on the first fret of the B, open B then, and then second finger on the first fret of the B. So it's like 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, open, 1, right? This pattern is always going like this. And now it's going to take you to, so yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And then D minor. For D minor, your thumb can go between D and G and A and G. Now, G7 sus4. First finger on the first fret of the B, third finger on the third fret of the low E, pinky on the third fret of the D. And this kind of picking pattern, the low E type picking pattern. Okay, so this part of the chorus is slightly different every time. The first time it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's this kind of fermata, and then he goes, and then he picks up the first finger, and you could just use like 4 fingers, I mean, to pluck through E, D, G, B with just these 2 fingers down. Right? Don't fall away from me, right? Back to the intro. That's the first time. The second time it goes to this G7 sus4 and picks it for 2 measures. Then pick up the first finger, so now this is like a regular G7, and do this for 2 measures. That's the end of the second chorus. And then it goes back to the C for 4 bars. It always goes back to that. And then the last time, the very last chorus, it sort of just stops on each of these chords. It's like don't fall away from me, right? Okay, so that's how the 3 different choruses end. But otherwise, that's the chorus. Okay, so then there's just the bridge. Okay, I am D minor, 2 bars of D minor. Same that picking pattern with D, G, A, B, G, E, thumb, thumb this. Third finger, I'm fingering it this way. Third finger on the third fret of the low E, pinky on the third fret of the D, and that picking pattern with the E, D, G, and B for 2 bars. Now A minor, same thing. C, same thing. And now F. This one I would just do regular. I can't. There's a lot going on in the recording, so it's hard to tell exactly what the guitar is doing. But I think it's just a regular F for two measures. And then it's going to repeat that. D minor for 2 measures, G7 for 2 measures, A minor for 1 measure, C for 1 measure, F for 2 measures. And that transitions straight back into the chorus, right? And that's how the song ends. And it goes back to C, the intro kind of thing, but it sort of slows down. Okay. Let me know what questions you might have. Please check out the tab. Please ask me any questions, give me any requests, tell me any comments. And thank you so very much for watching.